Okay, fantastic. Welcome to another incredible Behind the Stories. This time we are here with the absolutely amazing Shonda Buchanan. And I cannot tell you guys how excited I am about this chat. Shonda, I don't know if I ever told you this, but when my acquisition team, when we first were talking about the lost songs of Nina Simone, I don't even think like, you normally you pull up a submission and you're supposed to have a chat about it, right? Like, what do you like about it? What do you don't? I barely got out. So we have this submission from Shonda and they went, yes. And I was like, oh my God.
That's incredible. That's
And
awesome.
I was like, so don't you want to? And they were like, just no. And then it was almost like a fist fight over who would work with you on it. Like they were all just so incredibly excited. So I had to share that because it's one of those things that it's like, I have to tell you.
Thank you so much. I didn't know their pugilism was involved, but thank you so much.
Okay, so to
That's
start,
awesome.
isn't it awesome? I have got to ask you straight up. So what was the moment that made you say, I have to write the lost songs of Nina Simone?
That's such a great question. It was actually a creep up moment. Uh, I'm just writing some poems first and foremost, so I wasn't too intimidated at first.
Mhm.
And then I wrote an article about her for a class, and my professor said, "You probably have a book about her." And I said, maybe not, because I had so many ideas and so many books that I was already working on. So I think over a period of maybe 5 years, it was, okay, you do have these poems. Okay, now you're bringing the poems to your MFA program at Antioch University. Okay, now afterwards, you have been kind of politely stalking Nina and writing more poems. So I think you might have to do a book. That's how it happened. So it really was a creep up moment.
Oh my gosh, I love that so, so much.
It was it
um,
was it was fun. It was lovely and a little daunting to actually compile the book.
but so what first, I know it was a class assignment, but like what first really was that magical spark that made you say, I have to write at least the initial poem?
Yeah, the magical spark was just trying to articulate and then also express a connection with Nina Simone is an iconic pianist, classical pianist, singer, born Eunice Wyman from North Carolina, Tryon, North Carolina. And I discovered her cassette tape in a knockoff bin in my hometown of Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Mm.
When I discovered the tape and started playing the cassette tape, and I played it over and over and over again, and I just realized someone is out there singing and doing the kind of music, the revolutionary, the love songs, the beautiful, unique voice that you want to do. So I gravitated towards her first as an artist.
Mm.
Um, and then also as a Black woman who was this civil rights movement icon as well, who in fact she had been kind of trained, and I shouldn't say trained, but really groomed by Stokely Carmichael and Lorraine Hansberry, James Baldwin, Black Power movement people, because they wanted her to be the voice of the movement. I didn't know
Mm.
any of this when I played that cassette tape. It was, oh my God, who is this person? And
Mm.
when I wrote that article for the LA Times and published the article, I had people from Germany, from France, from Amsterdam
Wow.
sending me their Nina stories. So it was, and then it was everyone has a Nina story. And that's when I started writing that first poem.
Wow. That's incredible. Um, Now I feel like you kind of answered this next question already, like why the story now, that there are just so many people who are so directly impacted, have such passionate uh, beliefs, feelings, moments that
Yeah.
were evoked by her. But I don't know if you want to like expand on that.
Yeah, I think when you are surrounded by cookie cutter music and cookie cutter people and folks who are walking the line or towing the line, and then you have a Nina who comes, and Nina says something like, I am not like you. Or she's playing in her rehearsals, she is like so hard on her musicians. In her performances, there were a couple of times, and I don't know if she was inebriated when she said this to a couple of people who got up in the middle of her performance to maybe go use the bathroom. And she would stop her performance and she'd say, sit down. Where are you going? Sit down. Right. And so, and she'd be like, oh, we have to wait for these people, these people.
Mm,
So there was this sense of I am a grand dame, I am a madame, I am a she is called many things. So the goddess of soul, or not to take away Aretha Franklin's headdress, but there was
mm,
really this royalty about her, the sense of royalty, the sense of adventure, the sense of she is unlike any Black woman we've encountered, um, and a beautiful dark skinned Black woman as well, with this sense of confidence, the sense of whatever it was, this magic that Nina had. And
mm,
so I think people gravitated towards that. It was, oh, wait a minute, here's somebody who's going to tell me exactly what she's thinking, and she's going to tell it like it is. And she lived her life like that. Her first husband was a faux musician, but a white guy. She married him, and it was really, I think, out of a sense of obligation. They
mm,
divorced, I don't know, like within a month or 2 months or something like that. Maybe a little bit more time. And then her second husband, Andy Stroud, he was a cop, and he became her manager, and then
mm,
also kind of her pusher. So there are so many moments in my book, The Lost Songs of Nina Simone, that I'm trying to capture, because the evolution of her is something that, for me, I needed to learn and then write about. But then also for other people, when they think of Nina, they think of her music, they think of her performances, they think of how she made them feel. And I think that's the connection for everyone. It's, how does Nina's music make me feel? How does it change me? How
mm.
does it challenge me?
Oh my God, that's absolutely beautiful. Um, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, thank you. No, thank you. I'm good.
um, and I'm gonna because we'd shared questions previously. I'm gonna put a little twist on this one
Okay.
of what's at stakes if things go wrong, but more so, not so much within the narrative itself, but um, if you did not feel as though the overarching collection evoked what it is that you had hoped to, what what was it that you would have that you hoped to, and B, if it didn't quite get there, how could we make it get there? Did that make sense?
Yeah. It does. Yeah, absolutely. No, yes, because I think for poetry, a lot of poets, we're constantly revising. Even when the
Mhm,
poem is published and it's in that book, we are constantly, when we read it out loud, we might be making some edits as we read. Um, so I think that the what's at stake piece is malleable for poets,
mhm,
because we are still, even if it's in this book, we can go and read it in a different way, or add names, or subtract some elements, some things. I think we're always really judgmental about our poems. I had a friend, who, she's still my friend, Carolyn Ferranda, Crater Ferranda. She's a former Virginia Poet Laureate. And when I
mhm,
first saw a presentation of hers, she put a poem on the screen, and she said, "This is the 100th revision of this poem." And I was like, oh my gosh. She said, it's been published twice, and I have still been working on this poem. That
mhm,
released me from thinking that something had to be final in a poem.
mhm,
Um, I think it's a little different with fiction, and it's probably a little different with creative nonfiction as well, because of course I have my memoir, Black Indian. And the memoir Black Indian, there are moments when I say, ah, I could have taken this out, or I
Mhm.
didn't have to do this part of it. But however, because it's like a whole story of my family and being bi and triracial African Americans with indigenous heritage, I can't just deselect a slice of it, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so it's totally different in poetry than it is in fiction and nonfiction. I have to say too, one of the first things that I wanted to do with this Nina project, I really wanted to write her biography. And I
Mm.
have the proposal for the biography. I think I only submitted it to two agents. I never sent it to a publisher, but I wanted to write a story that hadn't been told. Nina did her own biography, which is I Put a Spell on You. She wrote it
Mhm.
with someone. Two other people who are her fans from England wrote
Mhm.
biographies. Her husband wrote a really kind of it looks like a self-published text, but no Black woman has written a biography about Nina Simone. And I said, you know what? That should be my first project. So I still have that proposal. Who knows? There could be a biography. And then, of course, fiction, always a novel about Nina. No one's done a novel. And we were talking
Mhm.
about the graphic novel. No one's done a
Mhm.
graphic novel. I need to turn this book into a graphic novel. So when I think about the accessibility, there are so many moments where people can still connect to her. Different generations can connect to her because of the production, whatever that production is.
Mhm.
And there's always something in a Nina story. Like there's always love loss, longing,
Mhm.
in social justice, the sense of injustice, motherhood. Um, there's so many themes and similar themes that run throughout her music, which is why so many people, musicians of her day and time, wanted to play with her or have her sing one of their songs. So I mean, her impact is international, um, and timeless.
Mm. Absolutely. Very well. Very well spoken. Now, what kind of an emotional ride do you feel as though those who are enjoying this incredible collection should they experience? I love a giggle. I'm just saying.
So it's so interesting. I think that when I read from the book,
Mm,
I have to tell people, here's a section of, so you can only read the children, like Nina Simone's birth, the first part, which is it's actually starts with her ancestors. So if
mm,
you wanted to only read the story about her ancestors and coming to Tryon, and
mm,
Nina Simone also says that one of her grandparents was full-blood indigenous, a Southeast indigenous person.
mm,
So if you only wanted to read the story of her ancestors coming to Tryon, North Carolina, and then Nina being born, and I have a poem in here. What is that poem called? Essentially, it's God deciding upon whether or not she'll be a soldier or a poet, right?
mm,
And so if you only want to read the Nina poems, you can have that experience. The childhood Nina poems,
mhm,
and what it was like for her relationship with her father, which she called Daddy Divine, her relationship with her mother, who was a reverend and a preacher, who was the first one to bring her into church so she could play gospel, piano for her the congregation. You can have that experience if you want to have the experience of Nina as a young adult discovering herself, which is also that. I mean, we don't even talk enough about how
mm,
we are not really fully formed in our minds and in our brains, right? From 19 to like 25.
mm,
And I really didn't know this, but our brains are still forming its chalk, right? And
mm,
so the mistakes and engagement that this incredibly talented Eunice Wyman, who became Nina Simone on the
mhm,
Atlantic Boardwalk, I mean, the things that she experienced from 19 to 25, that if you want to just read that, you can. And then if you want to read about Nina Simone as the civil rights person, you can do that in the book as well. So, I mean, there are different rides that people can get in the book, I think. And so there are two poems that I always read at the readings when I say this is the Nina that we know. So when I say that, that means this is who we think. Actually, I'll find it right now. Um, I think it's one called Civil Rights, and then yeah, Civil Right, and then the other poem that I normally read is this is an interesting one, Carnegie Hall, and I'll say this is
Mm,
the Nina that we think we know, and I'll read the Carnegie Hall poem because we have a professional persona.
mhm,
But what I have found that in the book, the other ride that you can get is her relationship with her husband, which is fraught with abuse and um, her spiraling into the use of drugs and alcohol just to perform. So if that's a ride you want to have, you can have that as well. I have
mm,
a poem in here called Marriage, and each picture holds something watchful in your eyes. But from the moment you met Andy, there was a different look, a shuttered thing behind God's gaze. More than tired, England, Amsterdam, Africa, Germany, France, a lovebird pecked look. You looking through into black hole, a trick, no magic when the magic stops. So I mean, like, so I have poems that deal with that as well. And no one likes to think of their shiro or hero as less than perfect.
mm,
However, if you're looking at artists of the 60s, the 60s and the 70s, there were a lot of things happening. Woodstock,
mm,
lots of things happening, right? So there's a personal story behind each of those poems, and it just kind of fuels the poem. And because I've been researching her for so long and I know the backstory and then how I translated that backstory into a present poem,
mhm.
is I guess I kind of get to I get to both do the dance and then and play the music. I get to do all of it. So, but yeah, it has been a fascinating ride for me, I have to say. And I'm hoping that people who are reading the book are getting the same. Actually, one of the things that I was going to do with this is
Mhm.
to say, hey, if anyone has bought this book, please go review the book. Please review it because I want more reviews on Amazon and Goodreads. I need more reviews.
Oh,
So if you had
absolutely.
a good ride, yeah, if you had a good ride, let's do it. Write those reviews.
Absolutely. Please, please, please write the reviews. You have no idea how much of an impact that can have, both in terms of additional readership, but it also assists us in better understanding how the world has viewed and engaged with each story, each poem.
Yeah.
So please. um,
Definitely. Yeah.
what part of this did you feel was the hardest for you to write?
Yeah, what was the hardest part of this to write for me? That's so interesting. That's a great question. None of it. No, no, actually, you know what was hard to write?
Mm,
Um, I think a couple of the poems detailing her ancestors before she was born. And in
mm,
her, when I say her ancestors, I'm looking at all branches of her family, the African, I'm looking at the indigenous, I'm looking at the Irish, which is, so she said she has bi and triracial heritage, even though she's this beautiful dark skin, uh I'll call her Cleopatra because there were 7 Cleopatras,
mm,
and Nina Simone would fall into the Nubian representation of Cleopatra. Um, but to have this, how to tell the story of how Nina got here, that was
mm,
maybe a little difficult. Like, what in history, which is segregated South, right?
Mm,
She was born in Tryon. She was born in 1933. That's before civil rights movement. What was it like to be raised with a reverend mother?
mm,
Um, what was it like to be raised with a father who was a jack of all trades and a huge family? Oh my gosh, they was it nine? I think there were nine people in her family. So
wow.
what was it like for that? So that was hard, right? Yeah, to kind of pull those poems, those ancestral, those history poems out. One of the poems in here, I think it's called Fusion, Mixed Race Fusion, or Blood something. I have to find the title. But
Mm,
I condensed that poem down. Oh my God. Oh, Mixed Blood Fusion. Yeah. Because it was a huge poem. And I said, no, 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 no. It's too large. It's too historical. Like you have to make this poetry. And then there's another one called, because I'm talking about her mixed raciality. And where
mm,
is it? There's another one called oh, Low Country Deeds. And Low Country Deeds, basically this first part of it, first draft, I'm writing about the like the her races, her family coming together. And then I'm like, nope, take all that out and then write about Nina as the isthmus. Like
mm,
she's where everything converges because it's about her, right?
mm,
And I often think about that for ourselves. Like if this ancestor hadn't have been on that trail, if this ancestor hadn't have taken that boat, if this ancestor hadn't have been forced from Africa to come here,
mm,
would I be here? Would I be here? So there's a lot in that.
mm.
You can't always get
Oh
all of
yeah.
that in poetry. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's a lot.
Yes.
um Now I feel as though you were in a lot of different points in your life
Mhm.
while as you were writing this book. What were the most like personally significant that you feel may have impacted the writing of it?
You know, I think each step really is the I think each step for me, I guess each step, I'll say each section,
Mm,
the section of finding her ancestors, right? That's impactful because that's my work and my scholarship. I teach at Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo, and then also in the MFA program at Alma College in Alma, Michigan. And when I teach, I'm like, what's the backstory? Like, what's the heritage, the heredity? Where
mm,
are your records? If you don't have records, let's try to find your records, or you can use your memory, right? And when I
mm,
do workshops, I talk about like the power of memory and non-memory to help you tell your story. So for me, I would think my connection and gravitation is in each of the sections,
mm,
but really, I guess as an artist, I connect. As a mother, I connect because
mm,
um, one of her only daughter, Nina Simone's only daughter, Lisa Simone, is a singer as well. Just
mm,
a really gracious person who I think I might have said to you before, just before the book came out. I posted on Instagram, was super nervous, like, oh my God, the book is coming out. And Lisa responded and she was like, as long as this is done in good faith, it's going to be good. And I was like, yay, Lisa Simone, thank you so much for giving me a little cred on my post. Um, and then since then, she and I have just kind of like been in contact. She's touring in, rather, she was touring in into 2025. I think she was in Australia and a couple of other places. And I just put it out there and I said, hey, if you ever want to read together,
mm,
I'd read, you sing, let's do it, but I haven't like bothered her too much about it, and maybe I'll reach out again. But yeah, the part about motherhood and
mm,
how Nina mothered,
mm,
and Lisa even says in uh the last documentary in particular that I saw was What Happened, Miss Simone. And
mm,
Lisa does talk about how her mom was emotionally abusive, and I think there were a couple of episodes of physical abuse. And you know what they say, like, hurt people hurt people. And I think
mm,
Nina Simone was hurting, a-
mm,
and she took a lot of that out on her daughter, her loss of her career. So what happened with Nina? After Martin Luther King was assassinated, Nina Simone had a breakdown, mental
Mhm,
breakdown, which I'm not sure if this was the second or third mental breakdown. And then there was so much happening around. So that was Martin Luther King when the Birmingham Four, when the four little black girls were killed in the church in Birmingham,
mhm,
Alabama, by the KKK who put a bomb in the church. Nina
mhm,
had a breakdown, and
mhm,
but with that one, this is when she wrote Mississippi Goddamn.
mhm,
And the backstory to this poem, and actually I have the poem, but the backstory is her husband told her, she was like, oh my God, I gotta make a gun. I gotta go kill some people. I can't believe that they're just killing us in the streets and no one's doing anything. And she's Nina. She's traveled worldwide, but still
mhm,
she's a black woman in America.
mhm,
And so I tried to get some of this in the poem, and it's called Instructions on How to Make a Gun. It
mhm,
says, listen to radio, hear the news, try to dodge announcers' words that shoot out of mesh and metal, entering my veins like Georgia snake venom. Can't, she shakes her head,
mhm,
disbelieving cotton, muffled words echoing, can't. And literally in the poem, I'm writing what she did. Go to basement, find a hammer, get a screwdriver, a saw, tape them together with some nails and glue. Weapon falls apart. Nina cries, God, why? I can't take it. I gotta make a weapon. So
mhm,
when this poem is the poem that precedes her writing Mississippi Goddamn. So, and it's lovely when I go to some readings and I say to everyone, I say what I just said, and I say, "Do y'all know that song?" And
mhm,
someone in the audience says, "Alabama's got me so upset.
mhm,
Tennessee makes me lose my breath, and everybody knows about Mississippi, goddamn." And so I love it
mhm,
when at least one person or two or three people start singing the song. And I'm like, yes, Nina has relevance. Nina is timely.
mhm,
Everything that's happening right now. And people are thinking about revolution in soft ways, revolution in hard ways, revolution that artists can do with language, with song, with instruments, in a way that doesn't get us arrested, right? Or
mhm,
shot, right? And so it's so interesting that the power of art and the power of creativity is still a place of solace where we get to speak
mhm,
truth to power. And I think that is what Nina has always been about.
mhm. Ah, beautiful. Absolutely well said. Absolutely. Now,
Yeah.
how do you feel as though writing this changed you?
Mm. Yes. How did writing the lost songs of Nina Simone change me? Did it change me? I think it gave me, I don't know if this is a change. Is it a
Mm,
metamorphosis?
mm,
Is it an acceptance? I'm not sure how I would language it, but I think it's me gaining more of a sense of authority in my
mm,
own voice as an artist.
mm,
And you know what I mean? And a sense of a surety, that I have things that no one can take from me.
mm,
Um, my voice, the way I see the world,
mhm,
my intentionality.
mhm,
Um, Rebecca Walker, Alice Walker's daughter, calls what I'm talking about African funk. It is a thing that no matter how many African countries have been colonized, no matter
mhm,
how much appropriation has happened of Black culture, they can
mhm,
never take African funk from us. They can never take that soul and that heart.
mm,
Um, the thing that Joseph Conrad called the heart of darkness. Okay,
mm,
but you can never have it. You can write about it, you can
mm,
make money off of it, but we own it. That's ours.
mm,
So, yeah. So I think that that is for me, I mean, and here we are, Happy Black History Month. When I
Mhm,
think about the strides and the struggles and the triumphs and the beauty of the Obamas and the
mm,
beauty of all the poets and the poetry and the writers, Isabel Wilkerson. I can name Sonia Sanchez is 91. Sonia
mm,
Sanchez and Amiri Baraka, the co-founders of the Black Arts Movement. Um,
mhm,
like our voice, the the poetic, the tradition of of Black poetry continues on in a way that feeds us, fuels us, and pushes us forward and comforts us and codifies us and captures us. I can't say that in any other way.
mm,
So if you say, did it change me? I don't know if it changed me more so than writing this book. The Lost Songs of Nina Simone helped me step into my own leadership slippers, I guess. I'll say it
mm,
like that.
mhm. No, I love it. Yeah, absolutely. I totally understand. Yeah, absolutely. Now, what
Mhm.
surprised you the most while you were writing this?
Yeah. What surprised me the most writing this? Did anything surprise me? I think no, maybe the history. I guess that was kind of fun too. So I was awarded a fellowship to
Mhm,
go to Gentile Fellowship in Wyoming and write about, basically finish the book.
mhm,
So when I got there, I had all these like books about Nina and historical books, and I went online and I was researching a lot of stuff.
mhm,
And I had Nina's book, the autobiography of Nina Simone. So what she hadn't actually researched was how Tryon was founded, how North Carolina and Tryon basically were indigenous lands, and the um the people who drew the lines, not census takers, but what were they
mhm,
called? Oh my gosh. It was an Irish man who was there's a particular word, phrase for them, but those
mhm,
who drew the lines between North and South Carolina
mhm.
basically drew them over the Catawba indigenous nations and territory. That
Oh,
was
wow.
surprising, and I was like, because you don't think about like actually finding that kind of research. So I think I was surprised by
Mm,
that. Um,
mm, mm,
it's interesting how the oral narrative holds a place, but then when you see the research and like what's quote unquote the official documentation of it, it's
mhm,
really different. But then I always question, is it true? Because there were so much
mm,
um in the 1800s, 1900s, there was a lot of marauding, and there were a lot of courthouses burned down so that the documents couldn't be used, and
mm,
settlers could go and settle on the land. And so that's a part of what I love about writing this kind of, you could also call it a biopic, like a biopic book about Nina.
mhm,
And so
mhm,
I love finding the history that no one else has seen, and then talking about that and incorporating it. And so I think that's one of my like little funny moments, like when you say you like love laughter, and I'm like, but
mhm,
check this out in the poem. This is hilarious. Nobody knew
mm,
this. So yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah. That's a good question though. But so yeah, when
mm,
I think of what's surprising, it's just, I mean, I already knew that Nina had a trip, like her star was just so far reaching. And then
mm,
also how far she came, how
mhm,
far she came was from being an impoverished child in the South to
mm,
a world-renowned international artist.
mm.
So yeah, that was gratifying. And I still feel like I'm like, oh my God, there's so many poems I still need to write, but that'll be book two, or maybe it'll just go in the biography.
Yeah. Well, along the lines of, what are those things that, like, is this real? Like, did this really happen? And was there anything that uh almost didn't make it into the book, is there anything that you did not put in the book that in reflection you wish you had?
Yes. Yes. There's a poem. Well, I had to add those poems in the back, the suite, because I
Mm,
felt like it wasn't complete.
mhm.
And those poems are in the larger book, which is the size of a music book. Right.
It got
And
attention.
right, yeah. Huh?
It got a lot of attention.
It did, yeah. It's
Mhm,
totally, it's gotten a lot of attention. And
mhm,
but I think so one thing that didn't get into the book was I should have, and again, this is like it would be too long. It's like a huge book, but I should have
mhm,
narrated in a poem my search when I went to Paris to try to interview her,
mm,
and I instead met with someone who said he was her manager, which I got his name from the Wiltern in LA, in Los Angeles, and his phone number. And
mhm.
so basically when I talked to him in the US, he was like, "Yeah, sure, you can come." But it was like broken French. Like, we,
Ah,
come to Paris, And I was like, "Okay." So I had his number, got to Paris, called
mhm,
him.
mhm.
Cousin never called me back until what,
Oh,
2 or 3 days before I was supposed to leave Paris. And then I
mm.
met with him. It was like 3 days, and I met with him, and he was like, "Yes, you have to go to the south of France." And I was like, "What? I can't go to the south of France. I have to leave in 2 days."
Mm,
So it was this whole piece, and so I wish I would have narrated that. Like, I wish I would have put that in a poem, like the
mm,
search. Um, I have the title, The Lost Songs of Nina Simone. The article that I wrote around this is called Searching for Nina Simone.
mm,
And that was a poem that I wish I would have put in there because I think a lot of writers, we have those heroes and we
mhm,
want to we write about these our heroes and the people who we love because they have impacted us
mm,
in a certain way, right? Like,
mm,
who's the woman who just wrote the book about Toni Morrison? I can't remember her name. So a book about
mm,
Toni Morrison has come out. A book about Lucille Clifton. Kazim
mm,
Ali wrote that one, but it's more critical, a
mm,
critical gaze of Lucille Clifton's work. So we're
mm,
writing because we admire and adore and appreciate their work, but there's also a journey for us as the writer
mhm,
too.
mhm,
And as a younger writer, my 20-year-old self was very nervous about these poems.
mm,
And my 30-year-old self, and then my 40-year-old self. And then I don't know when the actual turn was, and it not necessarily with the publication of the book. Maybe it
mhm,
was my 50-year-old self. My 50-year-old self said, "You can do this.
mm.
You've met Toni Morrison twice.
Ooh,
You've read with Sonia Sanchez. Like,
mm,
you've seen, been in the same room with Maya Angelou, like, the
mm,
breath of Maya Angelou. She didn't know you, but you saw her speak.
mhm,
And so I think it was like Sonia Sanchez does a calling when she's reading a couple of poems, or not even reading. Sometimes she'll just start calling out the names of people who have passed, ancestors,
mm,
calling on them for strength. And I think
mhm,
that's what was happening with me. It was, you've done this and you've taught thousands of people. So I give myself the pep talk, and it's like, and whatever happens is going to be okay. Like, you've done the good work and you're still
mhm,
doing the good work and you're still, I mean, it is my jam to help people write poems and fiction and their memoir and tell their stories. I love, love, love consulting and editing
mm,
and doing my side hustles. I love it. And I love representing poetry. I love the
mm,
fact that I get to share poems about someone who impacted my life just as an
mm,
artist herself.
mhm,
So it's interesting, the question about did a poem change me, or did the book change me, or did what was surprising and challenging? I think it is the life of a poet,
mm,
for all of these things to happen, and for us to kind of write and articulate and talk about all of this, and to save space and room and capacity for these kinds of
mm,
things to exist in our lives, in our art, in our world. So I hope I
Oh,
answered your question.
that was such a, I completely feel you on the impact of the side hustles and the impact of meeting those who've
Mhm.
so directly, uh I mean, like you, at least for me, when I've had the grand opportunity to meet individuals that I admired. I mean, half the time I felt like I was just standing there, agog. Um, and I think I'm even lucky if I even said hello or remembered my name.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, I've been really blessed and really lucky. I mean, as a journalist as well, so if I'm thinking about it, I mean, I wish I would have been able to interview Nina Simone, but there were moments where she like literally there's a story that she shot a journalist who was crossing her yard in
oh
in
my,
in Cali La Rue. She shot
mhm.
a journalist in the butt
Wow.
because he was basically trying to get pictures of her, and she's like, "You're trespassing." Right?
Mm.
And so I'm like, "Oh, that was one thing too." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, please, Nina, don't shoot me. If I actually get to you, please don't shoot me." Um, but I've been really blessed to interview people like Don Cheadle, interviewed Don Cheadle. Who else have I interviewed? Um, had lunch with so this is I met a bunch of people as a journalist. Malcolm Jamal
Mhm.
Warner,
Oh
read
well.
poetry with him many, many years ago. Yeah, had lunch with his mom.
Mm,
Um, yeah, so I've been really, really lucky in a lot of ways,
mhm,
and really blessed to, have like Vanessa Williams, as a friend. And
mhm,
I mean, so when you say like and I guess here like sometimes my people my students are like, "Professor, you're name dropping again." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I'm name dropping.
it's true.
I want you know what I'm saying? And it's just I don't mean to
Mhm,
name drop. It's just I don't talk about, all of these folks that I've met who I'm lucky to have met and honored to have met.
mhm.
I guess I'll say it like that. And yeah, so I'll stop there.
I one thing I've been taught is don't consider it name dropping if it's true. If it's true, it's true,
Mm.
you know?
Yep. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
That's I can look at it like that.
yeah. Now who do you feel will fall the hardest for this collection?
Well, who do I feel will fall the hardest for this collection? That's a great question. Can you give me like a little bit more on that? Like, what do you mean? Like, who will fall the hardest?
Like when they engage with it, they will just absolutely be in love with it.
Oh gosh. So I do think anyone who loves Nina, anyone who
Mhm,
has seen her or been a part of like on the Nina train, who have
mhm,
her albums, who so um I gave a reading at the what's it called? Malik, I think it's called Malik Bookstores. No, no, no. What is it
no,
called?
yeah,
Oh man, I'm
it
forgetting the name of the bookstores. Malik
I think
in
it
Culver
is Malik.
City.
Yeah. Yep. Mhm,
Okay, Malik's in Culver City, and Common was there.
mm,
Common and uh Common. Okay, I'm just gonna list some people: Intozaki Shange, Erica
mm,
Badu, Lauren Hill,
mm,
Bob Dylan. I mean, Janis Joplin, Jane Cortez.
mm,
So many people have said if there was not a Nina Simone, then I don't know if I'd be who I am. And so I
mm,
didn't get a chance to ask comment about that or to I don't even think this book was out at the time. I was selling Black Indian, I think, there.
mm,
And
mm,
so yeah, this book wasn't out at the time. But it's
mhm,
like there are so many people who have been impacted and who pay tribute. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying? Who actually will say, I am this person, I am this artist, I am fearless as an artist because of this person, because of Nina
mm,
Simone.
mm.
Um, so yeah, I think I went on a tangent though.
No, no, you're fine. You are totally fine. Is there anything that
Um,
sorry, is there anything that readers say to you, I completely was not expecting this?
yeah, the marriage poems.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go back to what you said was fall hard. Who will fall hard? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
some of the artists will fall hard who haven't had the poems that have articulated Nina's life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Maybe poets, would fall hard. I do know I launched this in Paris,
Mm-hmm.
and there were so many, gosh, I think there had to be at least 100 people in the audience. And then when we had to leave the square because of rain, so we were outside, and then we went into actually there were probably maybe 200 people. And then
Mm-hmm.
when we went inside, there were about 75 people. So I had a translator. I was reading in English and the translator was translating in French, and she was amazing. I adored and loved my translator. And there was so 75 people came there. So
Mm-hmm.
I think some of them came up and I think they fell hard, as well. And then now I'll come back to your question. Now, what was that question? I'm so sorry because I know you can edit this too.
Oh, no, 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 you are completely fine. So, well, no, you actually answered it. I asked what were readers not expecting. So I think
Oh,
you answered it.
yeah. No, no. What were readers not expecting? The marriage poems.
Mm-hmm.
So I think readers were not expecting me to really write about specific moments when she was abused. For example, in her um the autobiography of Nina Simone, she talks about a moment when her husband, they were driving and her husband hits her and his ring cuts her on her face.
Oh my.
And I turned that into a poem. Exactly. Yeah. And I think people were surprised by when they read the book that this is a real book of poetry. It's not just me saying, oh my God, Nina, she's amazing. It's
Mm-hmm.
not that at all. It
Mm-hmm.
is, here's a book about a complex character, a multifaceted um, character, a difficult character, in our imaginations and artistically as well. So here's a book that explores a lot more than what you knew about Nina. I've had people ask questions about poems. Um, they ask questions about the Malcolm suite. I have a poem when I'm sorry, not Malcolm, when Martin Luther King died, and I
Mm-hmm.
have a suite of poems, like short poems that show like a malaise, her
Mm-hmm.
her breakdown, her mental breakdown. So they've asked about that.
Mm-hmm.
They've asked about the first poem, which details her ancestors coming into North Carolina. Uh, yeah, I think, and then also the poems about enslavement. So she does say that one of her ancestors is a slave, and one of the Africans was enslaved. And so I have a couple of poems talking about what it was like to be a slave who did not have autonomy and who did not have um, a sense, quote unquote, citizenry, but who had
Mm-hmm.
magic, right? Who knew how to grow rice. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you were in South Carolina, North Carolina, and you've got that skill, like you are a magician.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, so I'm really trying to think about different ways that we can language and talk about those um, enslaved Africans, and then particularly how they created a Nina. So yeah, I think maybe people were surprised by some of the antebellum like South poems as well.
Got
If
it.
you want just a book about like Nina's amazing, life as an artist, you can get a couple of those books. Yeah, you can buy those. But
Now,
I did the all.
okay. Now, is there anything, any final thoughts, any words of wisdom, anything that you would like to leave our viewers with?
Yeah, if anyone is writing a book about someone who in so ekphrastic, right? We call
Mhm.
it when we write a poem about a person, in anything that looks at art, music, paintings, other books, we call it an ekphrastic poem, which is a French word,
Mm,
ekphrasis. And so essentially it's writing about the art, writing about the work, writing about the craft. And uh, if you are doing this, just do your research, but also let your imagination flow, right?
mm,
It's poetry. Be creative, be majestic, narrate the story, show the story. I think when I'm one of my I guess I'll call it a strength, but
mhm,
it's like writing the hard stuff. I don't know where this comes from, right? I feel like I'm the
mhm,
least of the storytellers in my family.
mm.
There are so many, my sisters and brothers and cousins are like the queen and kings of shit talkers. Like I call it, whenever we get together, I was like, oh, the shit talkers convention is here. Shit talkers, like here we are, like us, you get the shit talker award, right? It's great. I love it. They're amazing. But for me, it's like, I feel like I get to capture that in, like, I get to narrate these moments and I get to make us live again in the
Mm,
memory of other people. When I'm writing
mm,
about my family, when I write about Nina, I get to help Nina live again in a different
mm,
way, in a different context. That's golden for me as a
mm,
writer, that people connect with it and that
mhm,
they appreciate it, that
mhm,
they buy the book. Oh my God, thank you to everyone who is buying this book. It's golden for me. Um, it's golden. So yeah, I'm really honored and grateful and humble to have this book project. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you to Cody Cisco. I'm so grateful.
Woo!
Cisco Cody, to for picking this book as an acquisitions editor
Mm,
at Running Wild, and for you publishing it. So thank you so very much. And um I know that the book this book has more legs, I think, so
oh,
yeah.
absolutely. And thank you, Shonda, for everything that you have brought forward, not only with this book, with all of the incredible artistry that you have brought into the world, and that I know you will continue to bring into the world. Um, and for anyone who's watching, know that we have the Lost Songs of Nina Simone. The ebook is available for 99 cents only the munch fabulous month of February. Again, love, love, love you, Shonda. Love your amazing work. And thank
Thank
you
you.
again for being a part of our community.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Happy to be here.